Hello. This is my first time going live, so hopefully it's working. Thank you for whoever is on the other end of this on a Tuesday evening or morning or whatever day of the week it is where you are. I'm Keelan Hughes, and I'm going to read a small section from a short story called I Ate It All and I Really Thought I Wouldn't. And it's from an anthology called Galway Stories, published by Dura Press in Ireland, and it's stories that are all set in various parts of the city, Galway. It's an absolute cracker. You can get it from their website. And if you'd like to read the rest of the story when you're done, it's also online on LitHub. Thank you to Roz and Simon and the Holding Cell for inviting me. It's the soggy kind of wind that undoes all the hairdos on the west coast of Ireland, that makes broken tents of nice new outfits and shouting matches of good wishes. It'll be quiet in the shop today. What harm? Marjorie finds the work involved in customers to be quite annoying. She prefers to watch them come in and twirl around. If they slip their wallets from their back pockets, betters the view. But framing their wedding shots and family portraits and homeopathic diplomas smacks too much of taxidermy. And the business she can gladly do without. This Dominic Street property, sandwiched between cafes, was part of last year's divorce settlement, along with the 3-bedroom house, its contents, 2.5 empty beds, their cars, their pug terrier, Michael Flatley, and her ex-husband's golf club set, balls and all. The shop has no website, and if it has word of mouth, the words are French. It wouldn't behoove Marjorie to sell it anyway, as the country is unkinkily spank-bang in the middle of a recession. It was Brendan's architecture startup premises back in the 90s when Marjorie's inheritance became his seed fund. Well, one of them. Back when he was still astonished that his wife built his desk for him and his closet. The closet, alas, didn't stay shut. After a 12-year, largely platonic marriage, he asked for a divorce on the same weepy breath as coming out to her. "Who are you crying for?" she'd said, flaunting the dry whites of her eyes like hankies. All the same, it felt as though they were tilting down the far side of a 12-metre wave, one that would deposit them oceans apart, differently wounded. She dragged her suitcase from beneath the bed for the passage. "Leave it," he said. "I'll go. You stay. Keep everything." Marjorie's face glazed suddenly, as if an eggy brush had been wiped across it. "Everything?" Brendan's teeth chattered. He shivered in his spectral flag. Horrible, yes, to stand before a loved one in shreds, for them not to hold their arms out to collect you. She glanced from the mole on his nose to the one disappearing into his crimped chin, to the scar on his hairline. She could inch her way around him blindfolded. But he her? Not a chance. How she'd never connected the dots. Brendan had clutched his moisturized elbows then, and, as a witness claiming guilt, said, "You're my best friend. I never didn't love you. It's my fault. I wanted to give you everything." It was the new millennium before Marjorie understood her deeper grief, that the closet she'd built for herself had been locked from outside and in. She'd wanted everything. She should be in the back room now, cutting glass and mounts to size, but she's not in the mood. Her top man Hawaiian shirt is blanched in dust from the workshop this morning, where she'd been making a custom frame, the only such order this month. "Do you think a recliner chair would suit the place?" she asks her new colleague, who hums, as if sounding out the faxed information that the boss plans to make napping at work more comfortable. Brona is cleaning the windows, having insisted that windows are the frames by which their expertise is assessed. Up and along the rivered glass she swans, with her lemony white creme-knit skin, her bachelor's degree in art history, her Picasso sketch eyeliner, and, cubistically, Marjorie's eyes all over her. On the crescent scar that lends a smile line to her pussy face, on the shadowy ulnar bones of her wrists, her angular palette knife arms, the slant fact of her waist, the firm hold she has of herself, of that chamois. From the register, Marjorie clears her throat, which has the satisfying effect of making Brona twirl around. With her in profile, the composition is particularly consoling. Possibly because of the recession, or possibly because of the general drainward motion of society, Brona has taken it upon herself to be concerned about the business's viability. Let's hope that wet wind makes it look cosy in here. Higgy, she says, keeping her ear close to the glass, as if listening for the squeaking counterfactual. The fine crack in the reality of a permanent salaried job, with sick days, and for the love of God, retirement contributions. Hooga is how the Danes say it. Marjorie DJs the scalp behind her ear rhythmically. But I think your higgy sounds cosier. The tone had been set at the interview stage a month back, and since no complaint was made, Marjorie took it as understood that one mustn't resent what libido is left in a 45-year-old woman. Lechery is nicer to be around than bitterness. And their taste in music has a sizable overlap. Talking Heads, Oscar Peterson, the Schindler's List soundtrack. Brona had said as much. The noise that would be on in SuperValu, where one of her colleagues, her college friends had wound up. The factory din of Medtronic, one of the only employers taking people on in the country. The TV operatics that would be on at home, that is in Brona's parents' place. To overpower the vibrato of their negative equity, the passive-aggressive say yes to the dress, the colonialism nostalgic Antiques Roadshow, the tongue-clicking misconstruing of this new generation. Brona doesn't quite know what to make of her own generation. She hadn't remortgaged a home willy-nilly when it had magically doubled in value as her parents had. And if she had ever driven a brand new 2007 Audi A4 Quattro out of a dealership, it would have been to test drive it to Lidl for discount korma. But then she had come into shops like this, as people under 35 tended to do, to fawn over the merchandise, photograph the desired product furtively, and to abscond and buy it online from China via the neighbour's wireless on Mam's MasterCard. She'd admitted all this to Marjorie, demonstrating the candid and open nature on her CV. Reading through her contract, she'd been shocked to see no mention of commissions. And how does that even work thermodynamically? That business can cool off and its employees are retained all the while? She'd voiced an interest in part-time diplomas in business to wrap her head around it, which Marjorie immediately offered to fund if Brona would only keep her profitability aspirations to herself. Brona sidles up to the staff wanted sign on the window and, with the tweezer precision of an art conservationist, frees a fly from its sellotape frame. Scrupulously, she cleans the glass all around it. To no avail. Marjorie doesn't tell her to take it down. When no more wishes can be genied from the glass, Brona moves on to dusting, right into the bevels of the display frames. The little bell above the door. Lest she arrive at the cash register altogether, Marjorie sends her into the back office to boil the kettle. Meanwhile, a couple arrive in, making a fuss of an umbrella that was protecting the woman's painting. The man is clad in cycling lycras and high-toe shoes, the opposite of high heels, but with the same clenched arse result. Marjorie had described to Brona this classic customer type, the middle-class couple with a pram full of, lo and behold, hobbies. You'd want a lilo to get around in that, the woman declares, eyeing up her husband's wet cycling t-shirt rig out. A submarine, more like, Marjorie says. But it doesn't bother himself on the bike. Ah, no, the man does his own answering. The wind dries you off as you go, sure. Marjorie glances from his treaded tire face to his knuckler groin. The more you cycle, the worse they swim. Is that true, or is it only a myth? Oh, what's that? The man angles his helmet-strapped ear toward her. Embarrassed now that she can see some of the expert drawings leaning against the walls awaiting pickup, the woman cradles her painting to her chest and glances around as if lost. TK Maxx would do her, surely. She goes through to the poster-like flick-through display. The metal ones tick, the wood ones talk. The man gets her to lay her painting on the huge table so they can see what they're working with. He thinks of it as an equivalent to opening a fitness meter app post-ride, to see one's form laid bare, one's personal best. When she sets it down, a muddy Connemara pony in a Kenyan-y sunset, the man awaits commentary from the vendor. Surely this is how they earn their margin. But Marjorie's eyes are trained away from the painting as from Medusa. Brona arrives with a cup of tea for her boss and beams at the customers. A dozen recommendations sputter at her lips. She yearns so desperately for the clothes. I haven't a clue, the woman replies when asked what she's after. I don't know. Do you normally have glass on top of an oil painting? The woman shifts her weight from one crock to the other. Not typically, Marjorie says, but we can do whatever we like. The woman looks to her husband. His wedding band is hidden by his cycling gloves, despite the nude fingers. She doesn't want to do what she likes. She wants to do what's right to do, without causing hassle. Hassle is for the rest of life, not hobbies. The way she's breathing, it's clear the letdown will be sore. She mightn't paint again. That's how fragile her generosity is towards herself. Squaring up with Marjorie, the man removes his windshield glasses. What kind of a doctor's appointment is this, where self-diagnosis is both frowned upon and required? How would this be professionally framed if you yourself were to do the choosing? Would it have a mount around it? Or what about one of those hover frames with the gap around the sides? I've seen those with canvases. What's the perfect custom frame solution for this painting? Oh God, Raymond. It matters the price. It's not worth some fancy frame. Claire. Raymond grips his wife by her fatty upper arms, imprinting bike oil on her shawl-like cardigan. Your painting deserves a good frame. No two words about it. The woman tucks her chin into her chest and smiles like the bashful seventh dwarf, who could have been the sixth dwarf if it weren't for shame. The man stamps a kiss onto her forehead before clicking from his cleated advantage over to the wall, arrowed in display frames, their cut-off corners veeing to the ceiling like poorly painted geese. Marjorie responds to their questions evenly, though there's an enormous price difference between the frames they're considering and the off-the-shelf ones that can be easily bought online. Brona gushes almost pornily when the couple handle an Art Deco silver gilt inlaid frame, even though it would render the painting ridiculous. Finally, the woman decides upon something humble and asks what time the shop is open until. They might come back later. Grand, Marjorie says, blowing on her tea. Brona stands with her arms suspended several inches from her side, making a peace sign of her body. You could leave your paintings here till then, if you like. The pitch of her voice might shatter the windows after all her cleaning. We could frame it for you and have it ready to collect, and if you don't love it, we can just change it. The woman shimmies now, her hormones dancing a jig they're not at all fit for, and in Crocs. Knowing well this perimenopausal urinary urgency, Marjorie helps her out. There's a labour charge for framing it. Conspiratorially, she adds, you could equally take it home and do it yourselves. Sure, look, Raymond says, holding the door. I could whack it in, no bother. You surely could, Marjorie nods. And if in doubt, there's instructive videos online. Thanks.